So this webinar is a tech refresh of the DocuNECT 5 platform that was released this year. We're about to release 5.1 as well, so there's definitely some new features which we can talk about that today as well. In terms of the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what DocuNECT is. There's some obviously some existing customers out there that you already may have DocuNECT, but we just want to, for those who don't, just kind of give a background of what it is and what it can do, and then move on to some of the features that are new in 5. The new discovery module, using capture and workflow together, and then a little bit about the new look and feel. And really where our future focus is, which is building lifecycle applications. Okay, we can talk a little bit about the application architecture, the application components for what makes up a lifecycle application. And then we'll wrap things up today with an accounts payable demo, which will pretty much take us through all the different features that we're talking about today. So what was DocuNECT then, right? Version 4.x. A lot of you have that version, and these are some very popular use cases with Application Extender. DocuNECT had a very powerful file import and file processing capture technology. Can capture from a number of different sources, from scanner copiers to network-based scanners to email file shares, FTP, secure FTP. We integrate with services such as DocuSign and Meridian Link. So a lot of people used it for ingesting electronic content into Application Extender. Then we have, as we still do now, our desktop capture tools, which allow people to drag and drop documents from email or through the desktop capture, scan with a Twain driver, use the virtual print driver, upload documents directly from Office. We had a rules-based, in 4 we have a rules-based extraction from different types of files, not just images, but Office, XML, and the different types of documents where we can extract that. And we had our distribution to Application Extender, so you can search and retrieve within the Application Extender environment. And we had exporting from Application Extender as well. So these 5 are really the top use cases of using DocuNECT with Application Extender. So what is DocuNECT now? Let's talk a little bit about sort of version 5 and what our philosophy is. So DocuNECT really is an electronic document capture, processing, and distribution solution to help you to manage the life cycle of a document. So what does that mean? So let's first consider the typical life of a document. And there are 5 main stages to a document lifecycle, and this is really independent of any system. It's just a traditional life of a document. It's captured. We have to get it from somewhere. When we're using it with document management systems, we have to discover the information or classify the document so we can understand that it's an invoice or another type of document, so we can extract the index values. We distribute it, we put it around a workflow, a business process, we send the data and all the documents to third-party systems, we manage it, search and retrieve on an archive, and then may be involved in some sort of retention exercise, which essentially ends the life of the document as part of some sort of regulation. In context of that, the DocuNECT lifecycle works very similar. Our whole philosophy is to map the lifecycle of a document wherever we can, and we fully appreciate that you have technologies like Application Extender, so we try to utilize that as much as possible. The first part of this slide is something that you've probably seen before. It's our traditional capture slide. Talked about that in some of the use cases that you have today, using with client tools, scanning from mobile devices, network capture, scanner copiers, from third-party vendors and services like DocuSign and Meridian Link, email servers, secure FTPs, and business applications. The discovery is really a new module, and it extends the capabilities that are already there and allows you to really visualize and automate the classification of documents, to adjust and to review that, and also the same with the indexing. The automated indexing can be reviewed and changed, and that goes straight into a workflow now. And it's the 2 middle boxes here, that discover and manage, that really form the basis of the new features of 5. So in context of our accounts payable demo later on, we'll be discovering invoices and the data within it, and then sending that directly around an accounts payable invoice review and approval workflow before we distribute that to third-party systems. So that's really the DocuNECT life. So what's new in 5? Let's talk about some of the new features that we have. Really 5 main areas of innovation that we put together in 5. Governance, a lot more audit controls and traceability, not just with audit trails on documents, but other components in the system as well. Our new discovery module, which is the new auto classification and indexing features. Machine learning to increase productivity. Distribution, so enhanced workflow and dashboards around the distribution phase of a document lifecycle, really to present the information to different people. And technology, so we've updated the look and feel of version 5. We've moved away from our Java plugin and replaced that with an HTML5 viewer, which makes us now browser independent. And a lot of these features, don't forget, we'll be showcasing in our demo just a little bit later. So in governance, in terms of the history, so any changes to user or role is now audited. So you can see that there's a screenshot of a user profile there, and any change to that user profile is audited when the password was set, when he changed roles, because that all feeds into compliance. As you well know, data tables form a big part of DocuNECT's business rules and data repository, and you can now track that with an audit trail. So any changes to made with any tables within the data section are audited as well. We've enhanced the document history and also enhanced the workflow history as well. So these 4 components really play into the governance of the traceability of where documents come from, how they're processed, and where they're going. The discovery module is a new module, so automated classification, so rules-based classification with confidence levels and review, so you can focus on the ones that need attention, and also the same with the automated indexing as well. A little information bubble there, and allows you to hover over and make any amendments and see what the confidence level was as well. We've also added a data grabber, as we call it. So even though we're using an HTML5 viewer, you can grab data off the document and like an invoice number, contract number that hasn't got a rule for it, and that feeds into our machine learning as well. So machine learning falls into 3 main areas. So rather than creating zonal OCR forms, our free-form indexing rules is very powerful. It doesn't require on OCR zones or anything like that. But if users are using the data grabber to grab information off a document as part of the indexing process, then the machine learning algorithms monitor that. And if it's used over a certain number of times, it automatically creates a rule so the next time the user doesn't have to do that. Character replacements, if certain types of documents, the OCR is always mis-OCRing a certain character, it learns when that is changed to and what character is changed to, so it can automatically do that character replacement. And we analyze the history for business context as well. So you can add business context rules for things like in the invoice world, if a vendor has never sent us an invoice over 20,000, why has he suddenly give us an invoice for 200,000? Doesn't make sense. Maybe there was a misread on the index rules or a mistype for the user. So analyzing the history of the documents can really give us some useful information for the machine learning aspects. Distribution and workflow. We've enhanced the dashboard's capability to really create a presentation layer for some of the distribution and workflow tasks, so you can get a status of where things are. And we've really joined capture and workflow together, and you'll see that in the demo today. So it kind of more closely matches the life cycle of a document within one system. And technology. So the new look and feel, you'll see that today. Custom menus, you can change the menus, you can change the login screens, you can change the color themes. Generally, the system has got a bit of a refresh on its look and feel. The new HTML5 viewer is fully functional. It's got annotations, red actions, and is a very powerful viewing technology. It's completely thin client, doesn't require any plugins. So let's talk a little bit about building lifecycle applications. So really what our philosophy is, you can see at the bottom all the different parts of the functionality of DocuNECT, and on the top is really where we're focusing now in the future, is building document-centric business applications. So we've already developed a few. We have our MedDev track for medical device tracking, and we developed an application with our partner VeriComply for loan diligence. one for financial services, and so forth. What we're really focusing here is the application extender, the Power Up DM Lifecycle app, as we call it. And what we're reviewing here today, the accounts payable solution. But we're not only developing our own applications, we're giving you the framework so you can develop applications as well. And the components of a lifecycle application are really an extension of what's already there. Lifecycles were there to a point, but we've increased the functionality of the lifecycle to include automatic classification and indexing and workflow. And you can, of course, build out connectors as you can in for to extend functionality. And also UI components, building dashboards and HTML5 snippets to try and make the experience for the user a little bit more intuitive in different areas of the product. So let's move on to a demo to show some of the new features in action. So just want to bring this slide back again so we can go through the demo and set the scene. We're going to capture the documents. That can come from any of one of the traditional capture methods that DocuNECT supports. We're going to start our demo in the discovery phase here, where we'll be logging in as Nick Bolton, who is only access to our work center, but only to review batches. That's all Nick does, is classifies batches and reviews indexing. And then we'll move to, once all the invoices have been discovered, then we can move on to the manage phase to get the review and approval workflow. And we'll log in as Mike and Bruce as different roles within the workflow. Okay, so I'm going to bring my login screen. This is the custom login screen. The demonstration today is based around our fictitious Portford Financial Company, our demonstration system. So I'm going to log in as Nick. And Nick goes straight into the work center. Now, here's his batches. So there are two types of work in those two middle boxes. There's classification or discovery, which is in the batches tab. And if you're involved in workflow, you can click on the task tabs as well. Nick is just involved in the classification and indexing. And this is a full batch management utility. I can search, I can filter the batches. All documents go through DocuNECT as batches. So we've got an invoice here that's ready to be classified. Partially classified indicates that I started to classify it earlier, but now I'm coming back to it because I didn't complete the task. So Nick's going to press the process button here to display the invoice. It's from one of our vendors' package drop. And you can see that it's already used the business rules to identify that it is a package drop invoice. It's 100% confident. Because it's over our threshold of 80 set in the lifecycle application, I get a check mark here. If the confidence was less or there wasn't a rule for this particular vendor, then I would get an exclamation mark, and I wouldn't be able to move on from the match until I'd addressed the actual classification. I'm going to accept this. Everything looks good. And that's going to move on to the next stage in the process, which is the indexing stage. So if I click on the indexing stage, you see it brings up the document here, and you'll notice that it's got an information bubble here. So if I hover on the information bubble, which is one of the new features in the discovery module, you'll see that this is the invoice number was extracted using a business rule. It's 100% accurate, and you can see that there's a green box around the invoice number to denote where the engine found the information. So all this information is stored against all the documents. It will even store if a user changed that, and that feeds into the machine learning. So not only that a business rule may extract certain information time and time again that's constantly amended by a user, and that feeds back into the business rule engine because that needs to be amended. So the adjustments can be made. We can demonstrate the data grabber here. If I click in my contract number, you'll see with the blue box, I can click on my data grabber and just highlight that, and you'll notice that it automatically grabs that. Now, going back to the whole zonal automated templates here, if I do that to the number specified, say 10 times, then the machine learning algorithm will kick in and say, hang on a minute, there's a repetitive task. He's doing the same thing over and over again. I'll come in and create a rule for that. So the 11th time, it automatically brings that information up. You can see that we split our indexes in different groups here. You can make the indexing a little bit more intuitive, and if you've got a large number of fields in a data set, you can put them in groups to make it easier for the operator. So I'm going to process that, and that's going to go on to the next stage in the workflow. Nick's done his job. That's what Nick does all day. He just processes invoices as they go through the actual discovery stage. So I'm going to log out. Now that's completed the discovery stage, the workflow is going to move on. It's going to move to an approver, which it gets from the approvers table, and we'll show you how that's set up in a moment. So I'm going to log in as M Castillo, Mike here. You'll notice when Mike goes into Work Center, he sees workflow. So he sees the workflow tasks here. Bolded tasks are ones that are new and Mike hasn't worked on before, kind of like email, and he's got a number of different ones that he needs attention to. So if I click on one of these items, I can explain the comments of the history, read where it is. I can look at the document. We can click on the document itself and to display what's going on. I can look at the indexes of the document that's resulting from the discovery module. And I can say, yeah, that looks good, and I can say I want to approve that invoice. And that goes away from my inbox and goes on to the next stage in the workflow. So that goes through different processes. The business process we have in the demo is that if Mike's approving a certain invoices over his approval threshold, then it goes to his manager, and you can assign different cost centers. And eventually, it gets to the finance group, where they can actually review the information. So I'm going to log into as B. Bolton, who is part of the finance group. And you'll see that Bruce has something in his role tasks. Now, role tasks are tasks that are not given to particular individuals. They're given to anyone in a particular role. So it's like a box in the middle of a table of people working. People can grab items out of that and put it into their inbox. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to assign it as a personal task to me, and I'm going to process it right now. So you can see that the invoice has passed all the validation checks and is ready to pay. You can see everything adds up here. All the systems done all the checks. I can see that Mike and B. Bolton approved 2 different cost centers here, and then Mike did the other one. So I'm all ready to go. Here's the summary. I just simply approve it, and that's ready to pay. Something else that Bruce has got the ability to do is actually manage tasks. So that means that if certain people go on vacation, I can actually get a view and search for different tasks within the workflow. So I can say, well, give me all the workflows within the accounts payable cabinet. So I can actually say now I can search for an invoice number or something. Maybe someone's complained and said, hey, no one's approving my invoice. So if I click on search to bring up all the invoices, you can see that these are all the active tasks. And I can actually go and reassign a workflow there if Mike's gone on vacation or something like that. So the management task is an extra permission that's given to certain users. And because Bruce is in the finance group, he's got that capability. The other thing is dashboards. So Bruce in the finance role may want to get more of an overview of what's going on in the system. So if I click on here, then if Bruce is involved in different processes, you'll see that he has different tabs here. Bruce is also involved in the loan diligence role, so gets a tab for that as well. But if I go back to my finance role, then I've got a couple of things. I've got a couple of graphs, but I've also got some data. So we talked about data tables in DocuNECT earlier. So I can set up a new vendor in here. I can set up cost centers, GL codes, approvers, and maintain their approval limits, approval rules, and so forth. This is a couple of graphs that include in the dashboard that allow us to see where things are, and they're interactive. So these are all the invoice totals by month. You can see that we're in October, so we don't have anything in November and December. And there are different colors that denote the different stages of the lifecycle application in classification, indexing, approval, in finance, and they're paid. So I can switch these on and off, so I can just see the ones that I want to see that are paid. And you can see obviously there's more paid in the early part of the year than the later part of the year, because these are still going through workflow. So if I want to see everything that's in finance, you can see really finance have done a good job of getting everything out of their inboxes in the first 6 months, but July, August, September, October, still dealing with some stragglers. And I can add, see what's in approval, pretty much the same situation. So you can get a really interactive view of what's going on with the process. This is just another graph that shows me the total of my top 5 vendors in terms of invoice totals, so I can see just what's going on, so I can work out how we're doing. I can actually export these graphs to a PDF or a JPEG, or I can print the actual charts as well. And there's different graphs available depending on your requirements. So that pretty much concludes the demonstration. So obviously, if you have any information, I'll just flip up the contact information. Stay in touch with our blog and Twitter accounts, and this is my information. In December, we're planning a